Did you want to talk about the practicalities of like chord choices and inversions? And
Totally. So one thing I wanted to quickly cover is chord selections, inversions, that kind of thing. I think it's really practical, even if you're a beginner keyboardist, to learn all your triads as much as you can in all the different inversions. So we'll just take, or do you want to...
What's a triad, Pete?
A triad is 3 notes, triad, obviously. So let's go C because it takes away the black notes, makes it easier. So C, let's go piano sound, make it a bit more. So an inversion of the C chord would be putting the bottom note onto the top, first inversion. And again, taking the bottom note, putting it on top, second inversion. So with 3 notes, 3 inversions. And how that practically comes into our playing at church is basically comes down to this. Most people in the congregation will pick up on the top note of any chord. That's the prominent note. So if I play this chord, you're going to hear this note more prominent than all the other ones, or here. You pick up on the top note. Even though you're playing all these other notes, that's what your ear picks up on. So if I'm playing a pad, I'm just going to use a piano, or you want something to be subtle and you don't want to draw attention to what you're playing, try to pick inversions that leave the top note in its place. So let's go, I'll go up the top, C, A minor 7, F sus2, G sus4.
So that top note hasn't changed
Hasn't changed, and so it gives you a sense of stability. You're not drawing attention to what you're playing, especially if you have a pad. I'll show you what I mean. Let's go down. The chords are moving, but you're not like, oh, there's all these big changes. Now, if I just did the first of every chord, so I didn't change the inversion, it would sound like this. Like that kind of thing, you hear every single chord change.
Sounds like me when I was playing, early piano playing with David Andrew.
So one of the biggest lessons I think you can do is, learn your inversions. Go, okay, how can I choose these inversions so I move around the keyboard less? Now, there might be situations where you want to, and that would be like in a song where you're trying to build it, and you know that the top note's the one that everyone hears, so you might be going... And see, I'm moving the top note up with the chord inversions relating to that, and then you get this sense of, oh, it's lifting, it's building, because I'm doing that. So,
well, it's the lyric, I will soar with you.
Yeah.
Like, what do you? How do you demonstrate that? What do you?
I actually follow the melody for that. So the top note of my chord is the melody of the song.
Yeah.
I wanted to.
Yeah.
And then when I don't want to, I'm not moving my chords as much.
Yeah. Especially like the start of the verse. In the start of the verse, you're going to be playing, keeping the least amount of movement possible in your
100%.
chord.
And notice when it gets small, I kind of bring my range down to the middle. When it gets big, I move out. You can add your bass notes if the bass player is okay with it. And you do that. So you create dynamics, not just by how loud you play and everything, but also the range where you're playing it on the keyboard. So,
did you want to really practically chat about particular chord voicings that help you stay really still? Like, what are some of your favorite ways to move between 1, 5, 4, and 6?
Okay, so let's go 1, C, 1.
So what are you playing in your right hand?
Okay, so at this time I've got the C at the top. It's a C chord. From bottom to top, C, C, E, G,
second inversion?
Yep. And then let's say I go to the A minor, which I did before. I keep the C on the top. All I do is move the bass note to an A, and I've got an A minor 7.
Do you need to play the A in the right hand?
I don't even need to play the A because it's in the bass. So I'm not even playing the A for that. And then if I go to F, if you want to keep the chord really close to the last chord, I just make it a F sus2. So I'm playing the F, 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 G, C. And then I could go to G. If you want a full chord, you just go G, G, D, G, B. It makes more practical sense looking at your fingers and looking at it rather than trying to go first inversion, I got to do. So it's a visual thing for me. So I look at my hands, and then once over time it becomes a feel thing. You already know. It's like riding a bike. I don't have to think, how do I ride a bike anymore? I feel where the chords are in relation to the keyboard. But yeah, that's kind of what I do.
Nice. I noticed you were playing like a lot of octave stuff there in the bass, because that's kind of what we're trying to do in churches. But I've been taking lessons with Charmaine Ford. Shout out to Charmaine Ford, who's an incredible Kiwi jazz player.
Oh, awesome.
She just reminded me, she was like, octaves are wasted.
Yeah, true.
What are you talking about? She's like, well, it's just that does nothing. Like it's the same note. But playing the fifth, that adds breadth to what's going on. And so I've been on a journey to try and widen out my sounds and not to waste notes as much.
Yeah, cool.
Also, one of the things that I've been learning is that when the bass player is taking the root, I don't need to play the bass. And so quite often what I'm now doing in church is bass is doing its thing, and I'm playing like a left-hand chord and like just different ways of like getting to the frequencies that I don't really need to be doing this anymore. I'm letting the bass take their place. And I'm creating, using left-hand chords, using voicings to kind of move around. Same kind of a thing. One of my favorite ways of like minimizing the distance between chords is to use the, like a 5-1-5.
Like a power chord on the guitar.
Yeah. Like this is kind of like pretty things that are happening up here, and all the meat's kind of happening in the left hand.
Like a poly chord where you do one chord and
Yeah, but if I keep this is the leading tone, leading voice in the chord. This is what people are hearing. If I keep that same chord shape and move to an F, so I've got C, which is in the third inversion in my left, and then an F in the second inversion. They're kind of really close together.
Yeah, cool. And you're keeping the top hand.
And I've kept the top hand.
Yeah.
We move to an A minor. I've kept the top hand, and then we move to the F. And this is an F add 9 or F add 2. And so throughout the whole phrase, I've kept my right hand consistent. So there's a sense of stability, there's a sense of consistency, and demonstrates things like safety, just not really needing to push myself out any further than I need to be.
It's all context too.
Totally.
So we're showing all this, but unless it's in context, like Dave was saying, you don't have to do the bass notes, but then there's context for using the bass notes. A lot of United albums that actually double the bass with octaves, which is a sound and it's a style and it's what the producer wanted. And so I'll often do that for a big part, just to get that kind of united octave bass thing happening. But definitely be wary of the bass player and don't do that all the time, because that's just a waste, like you said.
But also like that bass sound and the piano octave, like that tone, there's nothing like that attacky kind of tone that happens down there. And so layering those two together is a really strong choice that you can make.
Avoid notes is something that a friend of mine who went to the Conservatory of Music in Sydney, did jazz course, he taught me about it, and I was like, man, I wish I'd known this like it way back. It especially comes into play when you're trying to pick chords for a song, like if you're songwriting, and you're going, what chords work with this melody? And basically the concept is avoid any note that's a semitone above any note in the chord. So let's say we've got a C chord. If the melody is, let me pick something. Let's say the melody is an F. So if I play a C chord, I'm getting this thing. So this is where sus4s come into play a lot, and I hear a lot of people playing chords and going, well, where do I put the sus4 and where do I just do a normal triad? And a lot of it depends on the melody. And so you get this clash thing if you're playing a chord and the melody is a semitone above any of the notes in the chord. So
that's when a singer and a piano and the piano clash, right?
Yes. So if the melody, like I said, da 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 da, if it was that, I wouldn't play da 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 da.
Gotcha.
Da. I would have to make that a sus. Da, 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 da,
Yeah.
na, na, na. We all know the song. And so I'm wary of that. I can't stay da, 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 da. It just creates unease and clashing, and so I always move that.
Yeah.
Na, na, na.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da. So just a little tip, if something's not feeling right, just check your sus4s and make sure that the melody's not hitting a semitone above any of the notes in the chord that you're playing.
Yeah. Also helps that we've got Chiselet who just goes like, that's not, that,
but
that doesn't work.
It's good to know the theory behind it and why it sounds weird, because you can quickly go, oh, okay. Yeah.
How do you feel about the semitone in piano voicings though?
Yeah, and obviously with any jazz rule, it's never hard, fast. And another thing that they would say is if you're soloing, you can use those avoid notes, but don't land on it and accentuate it. So let's say I can do that. But if I go, it's just like, resolve it, get away from it. So with anything jazz, there's always, you break the rules, but knowing that it gives you that clashy sound means you make your choices wisely. And I love the major 7 but it works, it's a sound. And if you don't like the clashiness, just separate it by an octave.
Just move it over.
Rather than having it like that. But anyway, choices.
Choices.
Everyone has them.
Everyone make good choices.